Imagine a woman hidden in plain sight, her hands scarred by a past that stole her dreams, stepping onto a stage where no one expects her to shine. The spotlight burns, the audience whispers, and the weight of years of silence presses against her chest. This is Lillian Porter, an unassuming assistant at the prestigious Robertson Conservatory, about to unravel a secret that will leave a room of skeptics speechless. Her fingers hover over the piano keys, ready to reclaim a legacy buried under doubt and dismissal. Will she falter, or will she rewrite her story in a blaze of music? This is a tale of a resilience of talent that refuses to be ignored, and of a single moment that changes everything. Where are you watching from? Let's dive into Lillian's journey together. Lillian Porter stood at the precipice of the stage, her modest frame bathed in the soft glow of the Robertson Conservatory's grand chandelier. To the audience, she was merely an administrative assistant, a quiet figure who shuffled papers and scheduled rehearsals. Her presence unremarkable amidst the institution's towering egos. The professor's Dr. Whitmore with his perpetual frown, Professor Thornton with her sharp, dismissive gaze, exchanged skeptical glances, their murmurs rippling through the hall. No one could have known that Lillian Porter was a mask, a carefully crafted veil concealing Lillian Kurtz, the pianist whose name once set concert halls ablaze. As she settled before the gleaming Steinway, its ebony surface reflecting the weight of her untold story, the air grew thick with anticipation. Her hands hovered above the keys, poised to unravel a secret long buried beneath years of silence. The first notes of Liszt's transcription of Beethoven's Fifth Symphony erupted from her fingertips, a thunderous declaration that shattered the room's complacency. Each chord was a pulse, a heartbeat, carrying the raw power of Beethoven's genius filtered through Liszt's virtuosic lens. Lillian's hands danced with a precision that bordered on the divine, her fingers weaving through the intricate passages with a ferocity that belied her unassuming exterior. The audience, initially indifferent, leaned forward, their breaths catching as the music swelled. Her performance was no mere recitation. It was a confession, a tapestry of anguish and triumph woven from the threads of a life marked by loss and resilience. Years ago, a devastating injury had silenced her career, her hands betrayed by pain, her name fading into obscurity. Yet here in this moment, those same hands defied their history, each note a testament to her unyielding spirit. De Whitmore's jaw slackened, his notepad forgotten in his lap. Professor Thornton's eyes widened, her skepticism crumbling under the weight of Lillian's artistry. In the third row, Madame Dubois, the conservatory's revered guest, leaned forward, her lips parting in a whisper. Lillian Kurtz. The name hung in the air, a revelation that sent a shiver through those close enough to hear. Lillian played on, oblivious to their astonishment, her world reduced to the keys beneath her fingers and the music coursing through her veins. The notes soared, now tender, now ferocious, as she navigated the labyrinth of Liszt's arrangement. The iconic motif of Beethoven's Fifth da-da-da-dum emerged not as a mere melody, but as a battle cry, a declaration of survival against the odds. As the piece reached its technical zenith, a passage so demanding it had broken lesser musicians, Lillian's focus sharpened to a razor's edge. Her fingers flew across the keys, executing runs and trills with a clarity that seemed to defy human limitation. The audience held its breath, the silence between notes as potent as the music itself. She was no longer the overlooked assistant, no longer the woman whose dreams had been deferred by circumstance. She was a force, a conduit for the sublime, her pain and perseverance distilled into every phrase. The hall seemed to contract, the walls themselves leaning in to witness her triumph. When the final chord rang out resolute and radiant, the room fell into a stunned hush. For a heartbeat, time suspended the weight of what had just transpired, settling over the audience like a sacred vow. Then, as if released from a spell, the hall erupted. Applause thundered, a tidal wave of awe and admiration as the audience rose to their feet. Lillian stood, her chest heaving, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. She offered a humble bow, her face serene yet alight with the quiet pride of someone who had reclaimed her truth. Behind her, the professors exchanged glances, their earlier disdain replaced by a mix of shame and wonder. Whitmore's hands trembled as he clapped his mind, replaying years of curt dismissals. Professor Thornton's lips pressed into a thin line, her pride wrestling with the realization of her error. Madame de tears streaking her powdered cheeks, whispered again Lillian Kurtz, as if to anchor the moment in memory. Lillian stepped back from the piano, her silhouette framed against the stage's warm light. She had not played for their approval, nor to settle scores. She had played for herself, for the girl who once dreamed of concert halls, For the woman who had rebuilt her spirit note by note in that fleeting moment as the applause washed over her. Lillian Porter and Lillian Kurtz were one, a soul laid bare, a legacy reborn. The conservatory would never be the same, nor would those who had witnessed the unassuming assistant rewrite her story in music's eternal language. The roar of applause still pulsed through the Robertson Conservatory, a living force that seemed to hold the room in its grip. Lillian Porter stood at the stage's edge, her breath steady but her heart racing, the echoes of her performance lingering like a sacred hymn. The audience, still standing, poured their awe into every clap, their faces alight with the revelation of what they had witnessed. Dr. Whitmore, his reluctance palpable, rose from his seat, his usual air of authority softened by unease. With a stiff gesture, he invited Lillian to the microphone, his eyes avoiding hers as if afraid of what they might reveal. Professor Thornton sat rigid, her hands clasped tightly, her earlier condescension, now a bitter weight. Madame Dubois, her gaze warm and knowing, watched Lillian with the quiet reverence of one who understood the cost of such a moment. Lillian stepped forward, her voice soft but resolute as she spoke. "I am Lillian Kurtz," she said, and the name landed like a spark in dry grass, igniting gasps and whispers. She recounted her past, a prodigy, who had once set Europe's concert halls ablaze, her career silenced by a cruel accident that shattered her hands and her dreams. She spoke of her recovery, a grueling pilgrimage through pain and doubt, and her choice to work anonymously at the conservatory, seeking not fame, but the music she had lost. "I came here to remember why I loved it," she said, her words raw with truth. Madame Dubois nodded, her eyes glistening with empathy, while Whitmore shifted uncomfortably, his arrogance exposed. Thornton's face tightened her silence, a confession of misjudgment. The air shifted as Robert Danson, a prominent benefactor, rose from the crowd, his voice cutting through the murmurs. "Miss Kurtz," he said, "your gift belongs in the classroom as much as on the stage. Will you teach our students?" The proposal hung like a promise, and the conservatory's director, sensing the moment's weight, swiftly offered Lillian the role of artist in residence. She saw the opportunism in their eyes, the sudden flattery from those who had once dismissed her. But she let it pass. Her gaze found Gregory Palmer, a young student whose earlier panic she had soothed with quiet encouragement. He approached her now, his voice trembling. "You made me believe I could do this," he said, and in his gratitude, Lillian glimpsed a new path. The stage had been her past, but these students, raw, eager, fragile, were her future. She could guide them not as a distant star, but as a mentor who knew the cost of dreams. As she left the stage, the applause followed her, a tide of sound that carried both vindication and release. The weight of her past, the years of anonymity and pain, seemed to dissolve with each step. Lillian had not merely reclaimed her name. She had forged a purpose greater than the spotlight. The conservatory, once a place of quiet survival, now hummed with possibility. For Whitmore and Thornton, the moment was a mirror reflecting their prejudices in stark clarity. They would carry that lesson uneasy but undeniable as they navigated the institution's new reality. Madame Dubois watched Lillian disappear into the wings, a smile touching her lips as if she saw the arc of a story only beginning to unfold. Lillian paused in the dim corridor, the echoes of the hall fading behind her. She felt the music still thrumming in her veins, not as a performance, but as a calling. She had returned to the world not as Lillian Kurtz, the fallen star, but as Lillian, the woman who had rebuilt herself note by note. The students waiting in the classrooms beyond would inherit her fire, her resilience, her love for the art that had both broken and saved her. And in their growth, she would find her own redemption, a legacy written not in applause, but in the quiet moments of transformation she would ignite 6 weeks earlier. Lillian Porter moved through the halls of the Robertson Conservatory like a shadow, her presence barely registering in the bustle of ambition and ego. As an administrative assistant, she was a fixture of quiet efficiency, organizing scores, scheduling rehearsals, her days, a rhythm of mundane tasks. To professors like Dr. Whitmore, with his clipped impatience, and Professor Thornton, whose sharp glances dismissed her as inconsequential, Lillian was merely the help unworthy of their notice. Yet in the quiet moments she watched the students, her eyes lingering on Gregory Palmer as he wrestled with Beethoven's complexities at the piano, her hands hidden in her lap, itched to play, to reveal the truth she had buried. Once, while sorting manuscripts, she corrected a misprinted chord in a Liszt score, her pen moving with the certainty of mastery. A passing student noticed, puzzled, but the moment slipped away. Unremarked, Lillian's talent simmered beneath her unassuming exterior. A flame banked but never extinguished, waiting for a spark to reignite it. The spark came on the night of the scholarship recital, a high-stakes event where the conservatory's future hung in the balance. Gregory, pale and trembling, froze before Liszt's transcription of Beethoven's Fifth, his fingers faltering under the weight of expectation. The audience stirred restless. The professors exchanged panicked glances, aware that a failed performance could jeopardize crucial funding. Whitmore's face reddened, Thornton's composure cracked, and the room teetered on the edge of chaos. Lillian, stationed at the back, felt the tension like a tightening cord. She had seen Gregory's potential, had whispered encouragement to him in fleeting moments, but now he was unraveling. Stepping forward, her voice steady, she offered to play in his place. The suggestion drew laughter. Whitmore's scoff, Thornton's incredulous stare, but desperation silenced their mockery. With no other options, they relented their skepticism. A heavy shroud as Lillian walked to the stage. In her chest burned 5 years of doubt, 5 years of hope, and the weight of a name she had hidden. Lillian Kurtz, she sat at the piano, the instrument, both a stranger and an old friend, and poured herself into the music. The performance was more than a substitute. It was a reckoning, a declaration that her spirit had not been broken by the accident that once stole her stage. The notes she played were not just Liszt's or Beethoven's, but hers either. Each one a step toward reclaiming the woman she had been. The audience, the professors, the conservatory itself, they all faded, leaving only Lillian and the truth she wove through the keys. A month later, the conservatory hummed with a new energy. Lillian, now artist in residence, stood before a class of eager students, her voice warm as she guided Gregory through a tricky passage. His confidence, and once shattered, was rebuilding under her steady hand. Other students leaned in, their eyes bright with the possibility she ignited. Lillian smiled, a quiet joy settling in her bones. She had no need for the spotlight's glare, no desire to chase the fame that once defined her. Her talent, she realized, shone brightest when shared, when offered to those who needed it most. The conservatory, once a place of concealment, had become her proving ground, a space where she could shape the next generation's dreams. For Whitmore and Thornton, the lesson lingered, a humbling reminder of their blindness. They moved through the halls more cautiously now, their authority tempered by the memory of their misjudgment. Madame Dubois, who had seen Lillian's truth from the start, sent her a letter, its words simple but profound. "You have reminded us to look deeper." Lillian kept it tucked in her desk, a quiet affirmation, as she watched her students grow, their music filling the rooms where she had once been invisible. Lillian understood her journey's arc. Talent did not demand display. It flourished in the act of giving in the courage to step forward when the moment called. Her story, now woven into the conservatory's fabric, whispered a timeless truth beyond the surface, in the unseen lay the potential to change everything. Lillian's story teaches us that true worth often lies beneath the surface, overlooked by those too quick to judge. Her journey from obscurity to triumph reminds us to challenge our assumptions, to seek the hidden potential in others and ourselves. It's a call to humility, a reminder that talent and resilience can thrive in the quietest corners, waiting for a chance to shine. Personally, I'm moved by Lillian's courage, not just to play, but to redefine her purpose. She didn't seek revenge or validation. She sought meaning, choosing to lift others rather than reclaim her past glory. That's the mark of a true hero, someone who transforms pain into purpose, who sees value in the act of giving. This story resonates because we've all been underestimated or faced moments where we had to prove ourselves. Lillian's triumph invites us to ask, who are we overlooking? What potential are we missing? Let's commit to looking deeper, to giving others and ourselves the chance to surprise the world. For more stories like Lillian's tales of resilience and redemption that inspire us to grow, follow Sir Alex Stories. Subscribe, share your thoughts, and tell us, what's a moment when you defied expectations? Join our community and let's uncover the hidden brilliance together.